It's the start of a new year, and you know what that means. New Year's resolutions. It's that time when we promise to turn into superheroes overnight. By February, our gym cards are just fancy bookmarks, and our health eating plans, well, let's just say the chocolate didn't eat itself. But let's face it, if resolutions were that effective, I'd be a piano-playing, novel-writing, astronaut, and a fitness guru. Instead, I'm still figuring out which is the E chord on the piano. This year, let's do something a little bit different. Let's not set all these big, grand resolutions. Instead, let's focus on being our best selves, our best husbands, best wives, with all of our quirks. After all, being married is about loving and growing old together, not about who can avoid the cookie jar the longest.
Welcome to another episode of Amplified Marriage. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Brian.
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, as you heard us say countless times, grab a tea, grab a coffee, a cookie, and a blanket. Get ready for our chat in the 1st of January 2024.
Boom. Are we ready for this new year?
Yes, we are.
Man, I am excited to talk about this today. Like, here's the thing. So Natalie and I are not huge resolution people. Even though the opening was all about grand resolutions, we're not resolution people. We're actually about setting goals. And I know people are like, well, what's the difference? There actually is a difference between a resolution, in my mind, is oftentimes just a big idea, right? It's just a big idea. And so when I look at goals this year, this is how Natalie and I have broken down this 2024. And it's something that every year we improve upon a little bit, but it's something that I even do with our team that I lead at the church. It's called SMART goals. And the very first thing about the SMART goals is that the S stands for specific, right? And when we're going into our goals, Natalie and I have specific, say, weight loss goals, specific finance goals, specific goals for the children, specific goals for each other, but they all have to be specific. And that's the difference, I think, between a goal and a resolution. A resolution is just a big idea. I want to lose weight by June 20th.
Exactly, but there's no strategy.
But there's no strategy how to do that, and there's no way you can do it. So we want to talk to you today just a little bit about the things that we've learned, that we've done over the last 25 years of being together,
and what we've really implemented in the last 9-ish years. And
we'll be honest right from the beginning. The truth about goals is that even what I said in the opening, if goals were easy and it was easy to achieve, or resolutions, but if our goals were easy to do, everyone will be doing them.
Exactly.
And so there's a reason that you have to have a system, the things you put in place, like parameters and boundaries for each goal. And one of the things that I have it written down further down, but I'm actually going to read it right now. This is what Habakkuk chapter 2, verses 2 and 3 says. It says, write the vision, make it plain on tablets so he may run who reads it. All this means is that when you have a vision and a goal, Natalie and I have started putting our goals down regularly onto paper. So we have them written out. Sometimes we forget where we put the paper. So now we do it digitally because we're in 2024. Ooh, we're in 2024.
I guess.
Right? But we want to have specific things that we want to do with our family this year, what we want to accomplish personally, and it all has to be specific and then written down on the system.
That's right. Because I don't know about you, but I forget.
Well, yeah.
I forget things that I have written, and writing them on paper gives you a reference point for those times when you're like,
I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do this. And then you can reflect back on it, or that's the hope anyways. We're not always perfect at reflecting back until the end of the year, but really trying to get into the habit of doing that self-reflection, that goal reflection, even throughout the year of like, how on track are we? And not just waiting till the end of the year to reflect on whether or not we were on, or weren't on track.
Well, and I would say too, like, I say this to people when they first start going to the gym, because I at this point I've built a fairly good discipline. I go frequently on a schedule that we've determined, and I say this to new people as soon as they start. I said, it's not about the frequency, it's about the consistency.
Yeah.
So I will tell you straight up that I would say 95% of the time that I go to the gym and I do a 35, 45 minute workout, I honestly, most of the time, am not motivated.
Right.
And I don't really feel like going to the gym. Like after Christmas, we're going
after this podcast.
as soon as we finish recording this, we're heading over to the gym. I don't really want to go.
No.
But the thing is that when you begin putting things into a system, into this is specific, you start writing out what you want to do, you turn that motivation into a discipline. So what happens is that the discipline becomes part of what you do.
That's right.
Part of what you do every day, part of your morning or part of your afternoon, wherever you choose to add the discipline. And that's about, I'm using the gym working out as an example, because I've had to fight with this one for a long time, right?
But it becomes easier.
It becomes easier to go and do it.
That's what I mean.
Because you're disciplined.
Yeah.
But the motivation, this is the thing. Are we always going to be motivated for anything?
No.
Right? If you have kids in your house from 0 to 25 years old and they're living with you, you're not motivated every night to make dinner.
Nope.
Right. And you're not motivated every day to do laundry or every day that you have to do. So the motivation, if you base your whole future, if you base 2024 off the motivation to do it, your motivation is going to fail.
That's right. But
right?
I think creating habits and making them like, in principles and things like that, we're all like baby steps. If you have a giant goal, you have to have baby steps in order to get there.
Right.
Because the moment that you misfire or you try to jump ahead and you fall, figuratively speaking, you're going to get discouraged.
Right.
And so, yes, being on a routine, I think that's the key, is setting a routine that is manageable.
Right.
In small increments. And then as you can fulfill the routine or fulfill the habit, then you can increase the frequency and you can increase all of that once it becomes ingrained, so to speak. So for us, like even though I hate going to the gym, it does not bring me joy whatsoever. I always feel the joy of having gone after the fact.
Right.
So if I can remember that
after this, you will enjoy it.
I will be so thankful that I went.
Yeah.
And then as I start to see like the pounds drop off or the ounces drop off, or I start to feel just better where I'm not so achy and
tired.
Right,
and
I find myself making better eating choices and all, like it's a domino effect in either direction.
There's a writer that I have read his book now twice called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he says something in the book that has stuck with me that I use with our team that I probably have said on this podcast before. He said, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Ooh.
Right? And so much of what we do is a series of small steps, small decisions, small things that take us to the lead. Like when you're doing like Bible study or you're doing school study, you're setting yourself with knowledge that will benefit you 5 years after school is finished when you finally found that job and actually implement the things that you've learned.
Exactly.
Right? The physical aspect of your job or eating differently and getting the sugar out of your system, if that's what you're doing, or stopping caffeine or quitting smoking or any one of these things, all of them take steps and things with a goal in mind, but also with a system and how we're going to get there. I remember listening to a podcast, I can't remember the name of the podcast, but he said in there, he said there's a gentleman that he was coaching. New Year hit, and he's like, I need to lose some weight. I'm 150 pounds overweight. He was a big guy. And the guy said, I didn't know how I was going to do this, but what he started doing every day is that he got in his car and he drove to the gym. Mm-hmm. And he sat up, and you remember I told you this? Yeah. He sat outside for 5 minutes and then he went home. And he did that day after day for like 2 weeks. And then he started going to the gym the next week a little bit longer. So it was 10 minutes. He did that for a couple more weeks. And then after that, and 4 weeks later, he started going into the gym, stepping into the front door, sitting on the bench, talking with the person at the front. And then he would go in his car and he would drive home. Yeah. And I think, I can't remember the exact length of time, but it took like 6 weeks or 8 weeks before he stepped and stayed into the gym. And then he got onto the treadmill.
Right.
And then it was like 6 or 8 months later, he had lost like 20 pounds or 15 pounds of weight. And he was going towards his goals because he did everything in small incremental steps.
That's right.
To get to where you want to go, celebrating the wins along the way, celebrating the highs, and then taking the lows. What can you learn from it and moving on?
So I think that's a great segue into, here are some of the things that we implement and we have done, and we just did today actually, which hopefully will be sort of like small baby steps that if you are starting from square one, or if what you've currently been doing isn't working, perhaps this method might be useful.
So my mom, about
9 years ago,
started doing something with me and her, me and Natalie, my brother and sister-in-law, wow, I'm screwing this up. My brother-in-law and my sister, Katie and Jeremy, and Natalie and I and my mom would sit down and we would write down the highs and lows of the year that we were in, and then the goals for the next year.
Exactly.
And so for the last 9 years, the day after, we've rarely missed that, the day after New Year's, January 1st, we get together and we discuss the highs and lows of the last year, and then we talk to each other about the goals that we have set for this next year coming up.
Yeah. And we share with each other.
Yeah.
Because there have been years that have been really good, and we've shared in the joy of that year. And there have been other years that have been absolute crap, and feeling incredibly low and discouraged, and just vocalizing the discontent feeling and whatnot. They have been such a voice of encouragement or another perspective to speak into it. It has been so valuable to me.
Well, and I think even today, even with some of the notes that we have for today, is that where are your main focuses? And I think it's easy, like any other goal, that when you are in the middle of life to get wrapped up into and forget what the main focus is. And I think even today kind of reset us, and it showed us where our main focuses was for last year. And we were happy with most of them.
Yeah.
But there's some that we're going to just do a realignment and change our perspective. And we're going to shift where we want to go with the family, with the kids. Where's our next trip? Where's the next goal? Spiritually, where do we want the kids? That kind of thing. You know what I mean?
And like when you're talking about the highs of the year, people might be like, what are you even talking about? But like, what are the things that were awesome? What of your children's accomplishments were you celebrating? That's a high.
Yeah.
Some of the goals that you had set for the previous year, looking back, okay, yes, I was able to do that. Like I balanced my budget. Like that was huge. That's a win, right?
Yeah.
That's a high. What are your things that you set out for yourself, in self-reflecting, that were incredible?
Yeah.
Right? Like what in your marriage? Hey, I want to be a better communicator.
Yeah, well, like it's one of the goals that we had last year was we wanted to date more.
Yes.
One of the goals, I think we both put it on separately, and then we discussed it after. Like we want to have more dates.
Yeah.
And so we have learned that the kids are at this age where they can either stay at home, or when they're out doing things, Nat and I will just go literally for an hour.
Exactly.
We'll go have an ice cream from McDonald's, or we'll go out for a coffee and we'll sit in a Starbucks or Tim Hortons and we'll just chat for an hour and a half, and then go home. But to have more of those dates actually makes a difference. And so we looked at that this year. We're like, oh man, we actually did that. That was something we fought for the whole year.
Exactly.
And it was a win.
And now it's a goal for next year.
And
it's really exciting that we piggyback off of what worked this year, and we then can together work towards making that more often, more frequent,
and more part of our core values as a husband and wife that we want. Like, here's the thing: our kids are getting to the age now. I won't say too much because Natalie might start crying, which has happened in the last few weeks. But our kids are getting at the age where within the next 8 years, 6 to 8 years, probably all of the kids will be out of the house. Our goal in all of this is so that when the kids are gone, that I still love her and she still loves me.
Exactly.
She still knows me and I still know her. So many times, maybe this is you if you're listening, whatever country you're listening from. Maybe this is you, but you are so focused on your kids that you don't remember who your spouse was.
Yeah.
And that is actually...
It's sad.
It's sad because you get to the age where all of a sudden, now that the kids are out of the house, you don't know each other, and then you actually start fighting, and then divorces happen. Because now your whole focus was on your kids. Can I tell you a simple truth that our culture would have you deny is that your kids are not your whole world.
Mic drop.
I wish I would have had the thing.
Exactly. But hey, we set that standard. Because you know what? Let's face it. My husband was here before my children were.
Right.
And so
absolutely.
my husband needs to remain a priority in my life.
And so in all of these things that we're saying on the highs and talking about the thing about, we didn't talk about the lows, was the lows actually help you determine and here's the thing. I preached yesterday at church, or this last Sunday. And I said, there's two things that you see in Scripture when the Bible talks in Matthew about being those of you who are burdened and heavy laden.
Mm-hmm.
There's what happens is there's one you put on yourself, like these are burdens that you put on yourself, and then the heavy laden is things that other people put on you.
Right. And
so in our relationship, what is the pressure that you're putting on yourself? And I would say that needs to go against, is that a realistic pressure?
Yeah.
Is that an abnormal pressure? Is it something you can even reach? Is it a standard that you can meet? And then you look at your lows through the lens of, hey, I can accomplish this. This year was tough.
Yeah.
And we came close, but it was a miss. But how can we make that better going into the next year?
Exactly. And here's the thing of being able to do a spiritual audit.
Yeah.
And doing a spiritual reflection of where has my walk with the Lord, where has that been on a scale of 1 to 10 for me this past year? Is that a priority for me? Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do I want for that element of it? Do I want to be doing more devotions? Do I want to be more intentional during my prayer time? Do I want to be more intentional in reading the Bible? Whatever it might be, that also plays the thing. Because listen, for me, a huge gauge of my emotional and physical well-being, if I find myself super snappy and whatever, it's one of two things. One, I need to connect with my husband.
Or you're hungry.
Or I'm hungry.
Maybe three things.
But I can definitely tell when I've made the Lord a priority and when I have sort of had other things come in the way. So doing a spiritual audit is also incredibly important as far as it being a low, but that's not a bad, having a low doesn't mean that you're failing.
No, right? And I think
sometimes things happen and death happens in family, or the death of a friendship, or a tragedy of some sort, or, an unmet expectation can be a low.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's a really good indicator for me. Where is my emotional level at? Where is my mental health at? Where's my heart at?
Absolutely. And I think even our next application was goal setting, not resolutions. And I think we've covered that all the way through.
Exactly.
Is that we are more about setting the goals with steps to reach those goals. So and have it written down and work on it as a couple and know each other and help each other, be accountable to each other to make it work, to build yourself up into a place where you're disciplined to be able to move forward in whatever your goals are.
Exactly. And yes, we have goals as a couple, but when we do this whole New Year's thing with our family, it is a very individual basis, right? And so we're all writing in our own, we have books that we write in. So we're all doing that individually.
Yeah.
Right. And what we choose to bring out into the open to discuss is up to us.
Yeah.
But, for the most part, we're
pretty open.
Right. So the things that are on my goal list, oftentimes line up with the things on your goal list.
Yeah.
Right. And we've not pre-discussed this or whatever.
I have some other ones like riding motorcycle and that's not on yours.
That's not on mine. Right. But I think, now that we have a goal, what is some of the strategies that we can do? And right there, I just said, writing it down in a book, in a journal, having something to reference and
go back to it regularly.
Exactly. My mom-in-law keeps all of our books. And she lives downstairs. So, I could just go, Mom, can I have my book? I really need a reset.
Absolutely.
Right. And any one of us could, right? Just Mom holds on.
We have it written down. The ones that we want to keep on our, we have a list. Otherwise, these are the goals that we're going for. This is the stuff that we're doing. And this is the thing, even when you're looking at any one of these things, it's really hard to maintain, some people can do it, but it's hard to maintain the discipline of the goal on your own.
Exactly.
So it's so important that you actually engage your spouse or a really close friend or someone who's going to push you.
Cheer you on.
Say one of you goes to the gym, but the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
Right? Then you find someone who is going to challenge you and say, hey, this is where you got to go. Say, like I have a series of men in my life that challenge me in life.
Yeah.
Right? That they look at the things I'm doing or saying or how I'm moving or the things that I'm teaching and just be like, Brian, you can't say that, or that was really good, or what did you mean by this, or challenge, no, that's not right. You have to have those people in your life. You can't just have a bunch of yes people around you.
No. And like for me, my sister-in-law, like she was so great, like over this Christmas season of like really maintaining a gym schedule. And I was not, but I was like, gosh, I should get on this, because not that it's not a competition, because we all have the same goal of being
right,
like the best selves for moving forward physically, right? Because if I'm healthy physically, my emotional health benefits from it, my mental health benefits from it, my spiritual health benefits from it. So of like motivating,
right,
where she's like, if it wasn't for her, we would not have done the ninja parkour course that we did, and we paid for it, but it was like quality time that we could invest with our kids.
When Natalie says we paid for it, not only did we pay for it with finances, which it was just a small
it was so
fee,
inexpensive, but
we paid for it physically for several days afterwards, because I am not young and or speedy or agile like I used to be.
Exactly.
Right?
So like encouraging each other, like
Absolutely.
come on, we might be in different lanes as far as our physical health goes, but motivating each other to keep going.
And I would say, don't reflect just once a year on Christmas Eve like we do.
No,
we reflect regularly throughout the year. We have
like weekly debriefs.
Yeah, where we just sit and we'll chat about the week and what things are going and work the calendars out and things like that. And these are just some of the things that we do. We hope that it all makes sense. We also didn't want to be so broad that it didn't land.
Right, it was generalized.
But also there's just so many. The thing is that this is a new year. You're going to start seeing content from every influencer on the planet coming up with here's your 5-step strategy in order to lose weight. Here's your the 7 steps to financial freedom. Here's the 8 steps you need for the best mental health. Like all these things, you're going to start getting bombarded by these things, and because we're believers, these things are based in Scripture. Like that Scripture, right? These things, make them plain. Write them on tablets. Make it plain.
Simple.
It's simple. Doesn't mean it's easy. It just means it's simple. And the system you make doesn't need to be so complex.
No, and I think my final thought would be making sure that you find some community.
Right.
So whether that's a church group, putting your kids in a youth group, or some kind of after school program or whatnot, where they can learn and grow.
Absolutely.
We weren't meant to do life alone.
Nope.
And so oftentimes if we're struggling, we have a community, and I don't know what we would do without it.
Right. I don't know where we would be, our kids would be, if we didn't have our church community around us, our friends and our family, the friends that have become family.
Exactly.
Because of the relationships that we've built through the church over these last many years. And so there's so many different options where you can find community. I know sometimes it's really tough, especially if you're a bit more introverted, but there's people out there, there's good churches, wherever you're listening to, find a good church. I can't, honestly, it's one of those things, I can't talk about church enough, because I think it's so incredibly valuable.
Yeah. And it's such an important part of our life.
And it's such an important part of our life, but also of the development and spiritual growth and mental health and just being around people. And so there's one thing I want to ask all of you that are listening to this. We know that you live in the podcast because you keep listening to it, but if you have a tip or a trick or a hack or something that you want to share specifically about keeping track of your progress, or how do you discipline yourself to grow? How do you discipline yourself for the 20? We want to hear about it. So send us an email. If you like this podcast, just share it with all of your friends, all of your family. Let us know. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. That's where you can let us know. You can also email if you have any of those things you want to share with us at amplifiedmarriage@gmail.com. And as you hear us say every single time, we believe that your marriage can be reset,
refreshed,
recharged,
and restored.
Thank you so much for listening.
Talk to you soon.